Hi everyone, this is Pritha Saha Counselor back for another episode of Pritha Se Puchho. Today, we are going to talk about a very unique topic, ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Is it as scary as it sounds? We will discuss that, but before that, I would like to tell you about my story. I found out that I have ADHD when I started learning psychology. Since the time that I was 3 years old, I was really disorganized, very mischievous, couldn't sit still, would keep losing my things, and I would keep talking non-stop. And I couldn't quite figure out why I was like this till I actually started learning about psychology and I came across ADHD. And the first thing that came to my mind was, can ADHD be cured? So let's start with the basics. There are 3 pillars of ADHD: impulsivity, inattention, and hyperactivity. Not everybody experiences all the 3 symptoms together. Some people experience hyperactivity and impulsivity, which is a combination, and some people are the inattentive type. You can diagnose yourself as ADHD if the symptoms last for 6 months or more non-stop. Now let me tell you this. Do you ever find yourself getting hyper-focused on a new hobby or fidgeting non-stop, talking non-stop, losing things, being very disorganized? If so, then I would highly recommend you to get yourself tested for ADHD. Let me tell you the few reasons or causes that lead to ADHD. Number 1, the most important, it can be genetic. There could be members in your family, in your mom's or your dad's side who have ADHD, and it was undiagnosed and people always assumed, arey, this is how it is in our family. Then there is a very high possibility that you could have inherited ADHD. Number 2, low birth weight or complications during birth. If you have experienced some kind of a brain injury in your childhood, if the mother has experienced any kind of exposure to lead or mercury poisoning, and if the mother has been consuming alcohol or tobacco during pregnancy. These are the most important causes of ADHD. Okay, so new studies have shown that people who have ADHD in their brain scans show that some parts of the brain may be smaller or some parts are larger, which causes imbalance in the neurotransmitters. Now, while researching about ADHD, you may come across this heavy-duty term called neurotransmitter. Simply put, it is the body's chemical messenger. They are molecules used by the nervous system to transmit messages between the neurons or from neurons to the muscles. Yes, so remember, ADHD is not an attitude or a behavior problem. It is not done intentionally. The symptoms may seem like the person is very lazy, very naughty, very talkative, very disorganized, and it seems like they're doing it purposely. But trust me, it is a condition and nobody wants to get into trouble non-stop. Now, there's something called masking ADHD. What is masking ADHD? Well, as a child, it's very difficult to hide the symptoms. So the children keep getting into trouble. I would keep getting into trouble non-stop, standing outside the class, not having my notebooks complete, though I would be one of the very good students as well. So there was a huge, paradox that I was so naughty, but at the same time, I was very studious also. But as children grow older, they learn to mask their symptoms, that is, hide the symptoms to be seen as they are normal. Okay, so this is called masking in ADHD, and it doesn't mean that you are abnormal if you have ADHD. It's just that your brain is wired differently. Okay, like how a left-handed person's brain is different than a person who uses a right hand. It doesn't mean that the left-handed person is abnormal, right? The same way, a person with ADHD is just wired differently, and you can definitely use it to your advantage. So a person who has ADHD is called neurodivergent, and a person who doesn't is called neurotypical. Just because a person is neurodivergent doesn't mean that they cannot be successful. I didn't let my ADHD stop me from being the most that I can be. I have a thriving career, I have a thriving personal life, and if I can do it, so can you. All you have to do is you have to get yourself tested after getting in touch with a mental health professional and follow the advice that they give you. A common myth is that only children have ADHD, or children who have ADHD are really bad in school and studies and they'll never succeed. Both absolute lies, these are myths. Actually, ADHD is heavily underdiagnosed, which means that there are many cases of ADHD, but we don't really know how to identify them, and therefore we can't really help those students and people who are struggling with ADHD. Okay, so I'm going to once again tell you the symptoms of ADHD, so pay attention. Lack of attention to tasks, getting distracted easily, making careless mistakes, difficulty in sustaining attention at one task for a long time, does not seem to listen. The person doesn't seem to listen when you tell them instructions directly. They get very confused. Long instructions are very confusing for them. And there is difficulty in organizing tasks and activities. Their life is pretty disorganized. They keep losing things. They're always fidgeting. They probably can't sit still as well. And any activity that requires prolonged attention, they might seem to avoid it. And ADHD people are really forgetful even in this most basic of things. So another symptom that is associated with ADHD is called time blindness. So this is a phenomena where a person completely loses track of time, which means they might end up missing appointments or deadlines. The other aspect might also be true for them, which means that they might feel that they're frozen in time and time keeps on stretching indefinitely. So that's it for today. In today's episode, we covered what are the causes of ADHD, what are the symptoms of ADHD, and what are the types of ADHD. There is so much more to know about ADHD, and for that, watch my next episode. If you found this video helpful, please like, share and subscribe, and do share the word. If you want to talk to me directly, drop a hi in the chat box in the comment section and I will get back to you. This is Pritha Se Puchho, counselor. See you soon. Hugs and healing.